Max Carlos, lightweight champion of Australia, started from the red corner and at the official weigh-in scaled 9.5. His opponent, Israel champion David Oved, weighed in at 9.8. Oved is the shorter, darker complexion boxer of the two nearest camera at the moment. At this stage, the crowd of 5,000 had little idea they were to see the Australian star battered to helplessness inside 11 rounds. The difference in ring methods between the two boxers became apparent as soon as the first round opened. Oved held his arms fairly wide with both hands ready for action. He had no formal head defence. Carlos, as usual, had his right hand hard in a protected position against his chin and his left fully extended. After sparring for an opening briefly, Oved tried with a left hook under which Carlos ducked. Oved finished his move half lying across Carlos's back. Oved, arms held wide, back moved smartly as Carlos bored in, then drove a hard right to Max's ribs. Carlos led his left again and Oved countered smartly with left and right to the head. Occasionally Oved swung rather wildly, but even at this early stage it was clear that he was going to be dangerous. So from round 1 to round 5 in the fight. Carlos hadn't started well. He was astray with his timing and distance, and his supporters were worried at this stage. Chock full of courage, he forced the pace in the early stages of round 5. Oved was watchful, frequently flitting his head away just in time to escape Carlos's lefts. It was in this round that Oved was first warned by Terry Riley for punching in the region of the kidneys. Oved protested that the punches in the forbidden region were unintentional and the referee asked him to fight on. It was during this round that Oved received his second warning against kidney punching. As Carlos danced in at the opening of round 6, Oved met him with a hurtful left to the body. It was noticeable at this stage that Carlos was improving, while Oved's punches were going astray more often than they did in the earlier round. Actually, this was Carlos's best round in the fight. It says much for Carlos's courage as he fought up to Oved right through round 7 and took many of Oved's punches on his forearms and gloves. Even though Oved wasn't fighting with the same speed as he had in the earlier rounds, he was still dangerous. Both his hands very efficiently, while the Australian was entirely a one-punch fighter. It was fairly even boxing for the first 2 minutes of round 8. Near the end, however, Oved took command again. He had the Australian on the ropes, defending desperately against a relentless two-handed attack, every punch of which was a point scorer. Carlos was maintaining his speed. There was very little weight in his left leads, however, and Oved brushed many of them aside without any trouble. Carlos's defence had improved, and his right glove caught quite a few of Oved's well-intentioned lefts. Carlos came up for round 9 with a long leeway of points to make up. The situation for the Australian wasn't at all hopeful. Oved was as strong as ever and always dangerous. Although Oved was doing as much counter-punching as leading, he was scoring just as consistently as ever. Midway through this round, Oved was hitting and hurting Carlos far too often for the Australian's good. Carlos lacked the strength and variety of attack necessary to combat such a tough customer as David Oved from Israel. Palmer worked over Carlos feverishly in the interval between rounds 9 and 10, but it was clear that time was running out for the Australian. He had a cut over his right arm. The more Oved punched, the more Carlos weakened. The champion of Israel was taking his time, punching with weight and deliberation. Carlos was always in danger. The bell must have been a welcome relief to Carlos. He was well and truly on the receiving end in the last minute of this round. Notice Carlos, in typical courageous style, leading up with his stabbing left most of the time, doing his best to take the fight to his opponent. Corner, Carlos went to the canvas but jumped up without taking a cut. The physical difference between Oved and Carlos was most marked. Oved was definitely the stronger. At close quarters he pulled Carlos around, broke through his defence without much trouble and roughed him up considerably. Carlos seemed dazed as he came out of his corner for round 11. Apparently he thought it was the final round, but he tried to shake hands with Oved. Carlos's courage was amazing. He tried to fight back but hadn't a hope. Oved was in complete control of the situation, and he hammered Carlos mercilessly. Oved scored consistently with his three-punch attack to which Carlos had no answer. His exchange in the referee's corner ended with see Carlos on the floor from a heavy right to the chin. He took a count of 8, was forced across to the red corner and went down again. See him go down and then come up before a count. At this stage, a cry from the crowd was "Stop the fight." He saw that it was the end. He moved across to Carlos's corner, and as he did, Ambrose Palmer called to him that Carlos had had it. Riley crowned Oved, who was very pleased with his showing against the Australian champion. Oved will now be matched with imported lightweight Spike McCormick, champion of Northern Ireland, Rovasini of Italy, and George Bracken. This means a series of great lightweight bouts.